And we're back here, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Great segment just there a few moments ago with Joe Micheletti. Rangers play the Flyers tonight at Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. Now let's talk some Sixers with my good buddy and Temple alumni, Marc Zumoff, who's the TV play-by-play voice of the 76ers from Comcast. Mark, it's Zach Gelb here. How are you?
Gelby, I'm great. Go Owls. Happy to be on WHIP, bro.
Well, thank you for coming on, and I know that you are a big Temple Owls fan, and you do all the stuff behind the scenes on the TV show for Comcast for Temple University. But we heard you came on before with us, and you heard that Richie's is the new sponsor of this station. When you were a kid here at Temple University, and I'm sure you had some more hair back in the day, because I was on Twitter, and I see everyone just likes to rip you for being bald, which I just don't get it. But where did you eat here when you were here at Temple University?
First of all, I didn't know that you cared. Second of all, I'm okay getting ripped being bald. That's fine. I can't help that, and it's all good. The third thing is, you know what? It was so far back in the day that I don't remember, but I just remember grabbing and going in a lot of different places, and I guess I was none the worse for it because I'm still alive and I'm still ticking.
Well, that's a great mentality to take after, but let's get to the Sixers right now. And I've dealt with some players after post-game conferences, and sometimes they've been very quiet. Sometimes they've been loquacious after a loss. You saw a few days ago Doug Collins just go off. Reactions to the head coach's rant?
Well, I think that it's just natural that a guy who's very passionate, who's a very good teacher, who really is a very good coach and is very committed to what he has to do, is going to react that way. I think that he's only human. I think in some ways the players have probably had their own frustrations as well. I'm not sure exactly how they've dealt with those frustrations, but Doug has never been one to hide his emotions, and quite frankly, I think that's what our fans love about him, is the fact that he is very Philly in that regard. So, and a lot of times, a coach will try to, in some way, deliver a message to a player or his team in general, and clearly that's what he was trying to do. And, in fact, they did play better at Chicago, and they did beat a pretty good Golden State team the other night. So I wouldn't read any more into it other than that. A guy who's very passionate, who's probably experiencing a little frustration, and made it known.
When it came up to the question of is there a leader on this team, it was kind of a little bit of an awkward situation. He didn't even give a name. Who's the leader on this team? Is the guy that covers this team on a daily basis?
That's a good question. I think that they would certainly like Drew Holiday to assume that mantle. I think it only comes natural when you're an all-star. I think Drew, to his credit, realizes that he has to speak up more. He's told me in private conversations that he's not hesitant to go up to a player and say, you got to do this, or you have to do that, or we need you to do this. Evan Turner, I think, exudes that a little more naturally, and quite frankly, I do think that Drew and Evan in some way share that responsibility. But you have to understand that in order to be a really good, effective leader, I think it takes some time to go around the league a few times, to be in the league probably a little bit longer than those guys, maybe be a little bit older than those guys. So I think it's in them to be good leaders, but I think right now, because they lack the experience and the age, they're emerging leaders, but probably not quite where they'd like to be.
It was evident that Collins was frustrated. I do agree with you, and so would I, because this team had a lot of exuberance in this town. People are excited, and Bynum hasn't played a game yet this year for the Sixers. And you see this team, last year they stunned the Bulls in the playoffs, and there was a lot of expectations for this team. And there still is a chance that they could make the playoffs. I don't think they will, because they do have a tough stretch here in March, and they haven't been great on the road. But if they don't make the playoffs, do you believe that is Doug Collins, is he on the hot seat?
I think that management will assess everything. I know that Doug does have another year on his contract. I think that the owners value him highly. They value his expertise, his passion, which, of course, is a word that I used before, and his experience. And I think that the fans, for the most part, have a good feeling about Doug and what he has been able to do in the past. Remember, we did, albeit because of some injuries to the Chicago Bulls, did go 2 rounds of the playoffs. So, I don't know. We're going to see. I think that Andrew Bynum certainly is a big topic. Coach Collins, what eventually happens, it terms of his future. And these are all things that once the dust settles and once we get into preparing for the draft and preparing for next year, that I think that will be open for discussion.
Marc Zumoff joins us right now here, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Zach Gelb here with you for Temple Sports Hour. And Mark, the thing that just surprised me the most about this team this year has been their road record. They've been 6-20 on the road. I actually texted my friend yesterday, and I was in awe that the number was that bad, and he said he thought it was actually worse. What is the matter with this team when they go away from the Wells Fargo Center and they go on the road? Because it's been a completely different team.
This is a team, Zach, that, first of all, simply is playing, I think, below their own expectations. So you have to consider that when you talk about the road in the NBA, because I think of all the sports, winning on the road in the NBA is the most difficult. I think in football, it's simply that once-a-week trip that you make, and while the home crowd and the home field does give you an advantage, I don't think it's as great. I think in hockey and baseball, two great equalizers there are the goaltenders and the pitchers. So while, again, I do think that there is a home ice or a home field advantage, they can eat into that. But in basketball, it's that much more difficult. Again, this is a team that, because they don't have Andrew Bynum, they are essentially a team that is really without its engine. I mean, they were built to surround and complement this guy. Again, I stress the word compliment, and now he's not there. So they're struggling to begin with, and when you get on the road, it is that much more difficult to be able to have the, I don't want to say ability, but certainly the resources that you need to get it done. And, you know, it's been difficult. I think their streak now is at 11 straight after the Washington loss, and they haven't won since New Year's night at L.A. against the Lakers. So while this has been a difficult stretch for the Sixers, it only stands to reason that while they're struggling overall, they're going to struggle that much more on the road.
Howard Eskin actually came on this show, I think it was about week 1 or week 2 into this season, and he said that he thinks that the Sixers weren't being that truthful about Andrew Bynum, that he was going to be out for a longer period of time. If I had to put a gun to your head, does Bynum play this year, or do you think he'll be spending the rest of the year on the bench?
Well, gun or not, I think it's pretty obvious now that the chances that he plays for the team are
slim,
rather unlikely. It seems as though now the Sixers have said that he might even be considering some sort of surgery that would clean up his knee, which would then definitely have him out for the rest of the regular season. But in terms of the Sixers management being ingenuous, that certainly is not the case. I just think that's Howard throwing something up and seeing if it sticks. I think that when you are not truthful to the Philly fans, that you're going to do a lot more damage than you will any kind of a short-term benefit, because I think we, and I say we because I'm from Philadelphia, are really good at sniffing out something that's phony. So, no, I don't believe that is the case. I do believe that there was a lot of unknown surrounding Andrew Bynum and his knees, and because of that, to be able to come up with definitive information was pretty difficult at the time. To the point where I think that they tried to even get better at communicating, and I know the last month or so he's been doing his own weekly news conferences, and in fact, as recently as 2 weeks ago, said there was a 100% chance that he would play this year. So that's how wide the pendulum has swung. We've gone from out indefinitely to 100% chance of playing to probably not playing. But for someone to say that Sixers management is being ingenuous and not being forthcoming in terms of his injury, I mean, all you have to do is cover the New England Patriots to have an understanding of what that's about. And I don't think the Sixers have gone there, not by a long shot.
Well, you made it known, and a lot of people know in this area that you're Temple-made and that you're a big-time Philadelphia guy. So every time I do talk to the great people of Philadelphia, and I'm a New Yorker, but I do have my experiment in cheesesteaks. I've been to every single place there could possibly be, and I think the best place is Mama's in Bella Cynwyd. But where do you get your cheesesteaks? I think that's the biggest question when we have to talk to you about the 76ers.
Well, I'll be honest with you. While as a Philly guy, I do appreciate cheesesteaks and hoagies and soft pretzels and all the stuff that we're famous for, I'll have to be honest with you. I don't eat a lot of cheesesteaks.
You're not a vegetarian, right?
Yeah, well, no. I just leave it as like a once-in-a-while treat, so to speak. But when I do indulge, I'm actually a D'Alessandro's guy.
Okay.
If you've ever been there in Roxborough, they're a hidden gem. They're off the beaten path, and I tell any of my out-of-town friends if they have a car to try to get the D'Alessandros because I think they're the best.
D'Alessandro's is good. I don't think it's as good as Mama's, but hey, that's where we differ in opinion. But let's get back to Bynum real quick as Marc Zumoff joins us, TV play-by-play voice of the 76ers for Comcast. The big question now is, what do they do with him at the end of the season? Bynum historically hasn't been all that healthy. He's only played one full season, and that was last year during a concise season during the lockout. I couldn't imagine the Sixers go out there, though, and give him a long-term deal with the way his knees are in shape right now.
Well, that is the $8 trillion question that a lot more people than I will try to figure out. I think the Sixers will call in medical people once again. I think they're going to have to just look at their entire roster and put Bynum into the Super Bowl along with all the other guys and see what comes out. I think that if they do offer him something, they will do whatever they can to protect themselves as it relates to his medical condition. Amount of games that he'll have to play and that sort of thing. And you have to remember that he's an unrestricted free agent, so they could roll out the barrels and he could say, no, I'm going to go elsewhere. And I know that Dallas and Houston and maybe there's some other teams. I know Atlanta's going to have some cap room. You're talking about other teams that will go bidding for him. And trust me when I tell you, even if he hasn't played a minute, other teams will think seriously, if not tender him some kind of an offer because he is really talented and he's tall. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Do I think the Sixers are going to re-sign him? I will tell you that they will certainly and honestly give a hard look to the possibility of re-signing him. Absolutely, but there's no guarantee that they will offer him what he wants, and nor is there a guarantee that if they offer him the moon, that he'll sign and he won't go elsewhere.
You hear a lot of questions about Bynum's attitude and does he have what it takes? And this guy's already won 2 championships, but he was playing along the likes of Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, and his sector out there, getting coached by Phil Jackson in L.A. Do you believe he has what it takes from an attitude standpoint to be a leader on this basketball team?
That's a great question, and I don't think I can really answer that based on the fact that he simply has not played. He's not played at all. He went to one practice, or at least he tried to participate in one practice, and I was not there to see that. I know that he likes the organization. I know that he likes the medical care. I know that he's gotten along very well with his teammates on a limited basis. And other than that, I really can't tell you. Besides the fact that he's never really had to lead, he played for the Lakers and Kobe Bryant. We all know whose team that is. But I think the Sixers felt as though with a 25-year-old, given the fact that Doug Collins has tried to establish a different kind of a culture, you could just ignore that. That's another line of my house coming in.
No problem.
In order to see if Bynum can lead or not, the only way you're going to be able to see that is if he puts on the uniform and starts to play.
Marc Zumoff joins us, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Marc, I got 2 more questions right before we let you run. And I don't know, maybe President Obama or someone else is on that other line. But let's get to this real quick. I look at the East, and I really do believe that the Heat are going to get back to the finals. That's why I really haven't been able to get that much involved this year in the NBA, because the Heat just dominate every single team, and they're on a 15-game win streak. But let's just say if the Heat weren't to get to the finals, who's that one team into the East that you could see getting to the finals if it wasn't the Miami Heat?
I think if you're going to talk about another team, well, are you talking about coming out of the East now?
Yes.
All right, fine. I think the only team would probably be the Indiana Pacers, and the reason is they have something that Miami does not have, which is a big front line. That said, LeBron James, in a league that features the best basketball players on the planet, he right now is head and shoulders above them. It's scary, the kind of season he's having. This is once-in-a-lifetime stuff we're all witnessing. Not only how he compares to the other players, but a guy his size doing what he does on a nightly basis. And now, as they turn for home, you could see under his lash how his team is rising to the occasion and serving notice to the rest of the NBA that they intend to repeat. That said, the Indiana Pacers, with their front line, that could be bothersome to the Miami Heat, but quite frankly, I don't, it might steal them a game or two in a conference final, let's say, but I think the Miami Heat are a virtual lock for the finals.
Before we let you go, get into the college basketball, Temple University, they've made their run. They lost to Duquesne, and then they won 5 straight. They play Fordham on Wednesday, and they close things up as Shaka Smart and the VCU Rams come to Liacouras Center, and that game will be a whiteout. You're a big-time Temple alum. You've been out to a game so far this year on Al Schreier night. Khalif Wyatt continues to dominate, and he's been the best player in the 8-10. You also have Anthony Lee playing well as of late. Jake O'Brien. Will Cummings played his best game the other day up against Rhode Island. How do you see this Temple team finishing out as they get ready to go into the A-10 tournament and then eventually get into the NCAA tournament if they're lucky enough to make it there?
Zach, I only wish I had a show so I could have you on and comment on the Owls. You know a lot more about the Owls and college basketball in general. The one thing I do like in what few games that I've seen or what little action I've seen is Khalif Wyatt. And I'm not sure what his chances are of playing professionally in the NBA, but I love the fact that he is not scared of anybody, that he can carry the team, that he can take them on his back when necessary, that he will happily take the shot to try to win the game and deal with the consequences. And I think when you have a player like that, all other things being relatively equal, you have an excellent shot at going on a great run. So thank goodness Khalif Wyatt wears cherry and white. I really do love his game. He's very old school, and I love the fact that he's got no fear, and I think that a guy like that can carry your team far. I do think, and again, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but my sense is that Temple has to at least go to the championship game of its tournament, that any kind of elimination early in the tournament is not going to be good for them because of some of those losses they've had during the regular season. So, and you could probably talk about this better than I can, but I would think that they have to at least go to their championship game, if not win the whole thing.
Well, Mark, I really appreciate you coming on today. This was a whole lot of fun. Hopefully we didn't keep you too long, and let's do it again real soon. I appreciate it, my friend.
No,